YouTube, this is Caitlin from the Cloven Hoof. Thanks for tuning back in. Today we're going to show you our newest project that we're going to do, and it is growing oat fodder for the goats for winter feed. Now I've tried this before during the summer times, but we grew it in the house and it grew fairly well. We tried to do it again this year in a greenhouse outside because the water rinsing through it kind of made the house smell, and it's just too hot and humid here in Oklahoma, so it didn't do too well. So we're going to try it again in this winter when it's cooler. But this is just ordinary whole oats that we got from our feed store. You have to make sure that it's the cleaned whole oats, and it cannot be crimped. It has to be whole, so you can soak it, and everything that the seed needs in there to sprout is already in there. We just need to put it in water, so it's pretty easy. So what you're going to do is what I have already over here. You're going to put those seeds, however much that you want, in a bucket and let it soak from a minimum of 8 hours. We soaked it for 24. The more you soak it, up to 24 hours, usually the better product that you'll get. Now, 1 pound of seed will produce 6 pounds of fodder. So I have 1 pound of oats down in there. And now we're going to take you outside and we're going to rinse all the water out and scrape off all the floating seeds because those are considered dead seeds and will not sprout. So we're going to scrape those out, dump the water out, rinse them off a little bit, and put them in our pan. We're going. Okay, what I just did was just poured all the the nasty water that I had been soaking in all day. You want to dump that because it's got all the extra dust, and sometimes if you buy it in a bag from a feed store, it's got corn, sometimes it's got alfalfa pellets mixed up in it. So when I make a new batch, I'll show you how I clean it out because you want to get as much of that out as you can. The corn is not too bad if it leaves. Sometimes that will sprout, but the alfalfa, it doesn't really do anything but just get soggy and break down while it soaks. Dump this. Now what we're using for pans this year is just some cheap old foil baking pans that I got from the dollar store. The last time I did this, I used actual plant flats that we got from the greenhouse area of our farm store. That would be preferable, but this is October. It's starting to get cool out, so nobody has those anymore. They're all sold out. So we're going to try with these and see if this works. Get as much of the seed out that you can. And you want to make sure it's flat and pretty even. No super thick spots, no super shallow spots. You don't want to get any thicker than about half an inch to an inch. And then that's what it should look like. Now the good thing about fodder and what got us starting it to begin with was that the whole thing, the seeds, the root mat, the sprouts itself, the animals can eat all of that. And I don't remember the exact numbers, but it increases the amount of protein that is actually digestible. Just regular whole grain only has a small amount, but if you sprout it, it releases, I think, up to 80%. I'll have to get the numbers for the next video on this. Because like I said, this is going to be our project, and I'll take you through the day-by-day process of how we do it. it should go, if everything works out well, it should go from seed to sprouted fodder in roughly 6 to 8 days. So I'll bring you along for that ride. And this is the greenhouse that we had it set up in. We're just going to stick it in there, and then I'll water it in a second. But the best way to water fodder, if you look at any other videos, I learned this from Michigan Snow Pony. I'll try to leave a link down in the description if I can. But you have layers for each day or each grouping of days. So some people have the ready-to-eat trays at the top, some have it at the bottom. I remember there was some advantage to that, but I don't exactly remember what it was. So you just water from the top, and it's got holes on in the bottom so the water can drain. But I'll water from the top tray that I have up there, and it'll trickle down from this pan to the pan below it, and to the pan below that, and then eventually down to the ground where it'll dry up. But that filters it, and it gives all the nutrients flowing through it to help it grow. Now, the most popular fodder seed is barley. I could not find any barley in my area. I even tried online. All I could get were tiny bags, like less than a pound. And to start off with, like I said, I'm doing this over again until I get the hang of it. That's just not in our budget right now. But we have a 50-pound sack of whole oats, so that should last us for a while. And if I make mistakes, I have backup. So I'm going to get a bucket, and I'm going to water these. Okay, now I have to pull it out to use the bucket. Normally I would just spray it down with the hose, but it's getting down to freezing at night, so the hose is already disconnected. As you saw, as soon as I poured it in, it started dripping down through it. So if I had another pan underneath it, it would have watered that pan, and then watered the pan underneath it, and so on and so forth. But this hopefully should sprout within, like I said, 6 to 8 days, and it gets up to, I think, 3 or 4 inches of actual sprouted is what it's supposed to get up to. And like I said, I've done this before. The goats that I fed it to originally, they really liked it. I've watched some other videos where the goats didn't care for it. It's really popular with people who have chickens, because it's really good for them to forage and like eat grass and free range and all that. They really like it. It's a really good protein buff for them if you don't want to feed them corn or chicken scratch or stuff like that. So there we go, and then I'll just zip it up. Hopefully it'll keep it warm. This is the first time we're doing it outside in the winter. We did it in the house, and it worked pretty well. There we go. I hope that'll keep it warm. Alright, so this is the scale that we use, and you can see my super high-tech measuring instruments. Okay, it's a little bit over a pound, but that's okay. Because like I said, some of those seeds will be dead seeds and they'll float. So by the time I take those out, it should be equal to a pound. Yeah, you can see right here already. Where'd it go? There's an alfalfa pellet chunk in there. And that's just going to disintegrate and just be nasty overall. Yeah, see? And there's a corn piece. These I don't mind as much, but I really don't like the alfalfa in there. So we're going to take it back in the house and we're going to rinse it off. So I just take little bits at a time. And I have a bucket underneath it so no seeds actually go down the drain. So definitely not good. Now I'm just gonna. See, now I saw some of these alfalfa pellets. Can pick them out. I think I missed one in the previous batch, but yep, see, there's a chunk right there. There's a chunk. Last batch. All right. And then even though the bag said it was triple cleaned, if you look down at this water, I don't know if you can see it because it's a black bucket, but it's got all kinds of dust and, well, it's got our dog's hairs in it too, but that's not the company's fault. But it's got dust and it's got other little pieces of shells and stuff, so that's why we rinse it out. There, making sure no other seeds went down the drain, otherwise my mom would kill me. We don't need an oat field.
Growing in the septic.
Yeah, growing in our septic. That would definitely not be good. I have seen some people who grow it inside their house. They do it in like a utility room shower, and then they have like a mesh that covers the drain so they don't have to worry about anything going down there. That is a really good idea if you can do it. We cannot. We don't have a scrappy shower like that. Another bucket, please. Loud. Alright, so this is what the final step will look like for rinsing and starting a new batch. You can see right here some of it, most of it, well, quite a bit of it is floating, and this is where I can also pick out some of these green ones, which are just shells And there's like pieces of straw in here, so I can pick out the final bits and pieces I don't want in there. And I'm not going to scrape all of these because after they soak, they will sink down into the bottom and be live seeds. It just takes them a little bit longer to get the waterlogged. And then tomorrow evening I will come back and I will scrape this off, and then I will start a whole nother pan. So the bonus of this is that once you get it started, after the 6 to 8 days of when you're going to feed your sprouts, you do this every day. So as soon as you feed one, the next day you'll have another tray ready and you'll put another tray in. So it's a continuous cycle
Available food.
of available green food during the winter, which is why we're doing it. We just bought a lot of hay, which I'll show you in a later video. But this is really nice to have fresh green, not necessarily grass, but green forage for the goats. It helps keep the rumen working. It gives them extra protein so we don't have to grain them as much. We don't do that a whole lot anyway because I've had a goat die of bloat, which if you don't know what that is, it's when they eat too much grain and the acid of it builds up in their stomach and it creates a frothiness, and it just builds up and builds up and builds up, and eventually they will asphyxiate on it. So we really don't want to go through that again, so that's why we limit their grain consumption. So we prefer to feed them alfalfa pellets, prairie hay. The meat goes out on the pasture with the horses. So we prefer to do it as green as possible. And this is a good substitute. And it's also a cheap substitute if we can get it going, because that 50-pound bag of oats only costs us like $8, I think. And if we're only using a 1 pound at a time, it's going to give us quite a bit of food. So this will sit in the garage until tomorrow, and then I'll start the whole process over again. Thanks for tuning in. Bye-bye.
Ow.
Ow, what?